just went blank. And when I came to, I had 3 to 4 bounty hunters and police officers holding on to me.
Thou art with me! Right? Get off of my son now!
Marcus fell down, his arms went like this and he started shaking, and he was foaming out of his mouth. His eyes was dilated back into his head, so I immediately thought he's having a convulsion. But when I touched him, I could feel energy. It was like electricity coming from him.
You're fine, Marcus, you're fine. Get him up on his feet now, guys. Mike, get over here. He's fine, working. Get him out of here, take him out.
Growling, saying things, that I normally wouldn't say, trying to be physical with people.
Oh, come into me, you bastard. Come into me.
His eyes were glowing, reddish looking, and it looked like his whole facial features was trying to change on me. And he was cussing. He lunged at me.
Thou art with me! Right?
And he was literally trying to hurt me, and they was all on him trying to hold him back.
Come out of him! I command you! Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I shall fear no evil! Thou art with me! Right? Sword in my wrist! Come into me! I command you. Now look at me. Look at me. I fear you not.
We're here with Scott. Scott owns the original Venom house, and we're in this top bedroom here. And Scott, what's so special about this bedroom?
This is the northeast bedroom of the original house, and this is actually, from as far as we can tell and have been told, this was Lorancy Venom's actual bedroom. And this is the house in the room where Lorancy Venom was possessed by the spirit of Mary Roth from the house on the other side of town.
I know you remember me. I'm Jay. As I was little, you used to play with me when I was around 2. You should remember me. So if you are in this room at this time, please at least give us a sign.
I felt my shirt tug just now on the bottom of my shirt. Okay. I felt something. Who's ever here with us, how old are you? What's your name? Do you want us to leave?
Possession, very common. It can happen with children. And when they are inflicted, you never know what's actually going to come through them. You don't know if it's going to be something on a negative level, or they might be channeling through something on a positive.
It was at that time that a young girl named Lorancy Venom began manifesting what were thought to be strange trances or seizures or spells that would cause her to lose consciousness for sometimes hours and sometimes days.
I couldn't move. I was conscious. I couldn't even close my eyes. The only thing I could do was breathing.
A catatonic state is when a person falls into almost like a very deep trance. They become totally unresponsive to all stimuli in the external world. They don't react when they're spoken to. They don't react when they're touched. They can even be poked, pinched, and even hurt without any response. Their bodies become very rigid. In fact, in earlier times, people in catatonic states were often considered to be dead because their breathing was barely visible and noticeable. Sometimes people were buried alive.
A catatonic state can it also be done by the spirits inhabiting these people and causing them to go into this deep, deep sleep and come back with a tremendous amount of information, but then wake up from it and not remember anything that they experienced.
I was born premature, and I died 26 times, and a lot of people believe that could be a big part with why I see ghosts and why, you know, I go through what I go through.
When Michael was born, he died 26 times. My mother always said there was something special about Michael.
I always thought when he was first born, I thought he was special. At the hospital, I paced the floor, and I thought something was going to happen, something was wrong.
They took Michael from me, and Pratt Whitney donated a jet to send him to Washington, D.C. to be put on a machine called ECMO.
I spent the night with her at the hospital, waiting for phone calls for them to tell us that Michael was okay. And once we got a phone call telling her that they have to take him off the machine because there's blood clots in the machine, and they have to take him off and clean it, and they don't know if he was going to survive.
Michael survived. I got him 2 months later. We went home. I never felt so alone walking out of that hospital. Everybody stopped and just stared at us as we walked out. Michael started going into these paralyzed states.
I would wake up in the paralyzed state, and I'd feel myself kind of just slip away from my body and into a different realm, and it feels like being in between awake and sleeping, like your mind is awake but your body's sleeping.
The longest it lasted was 6.5 hours. Michael could hear me. He could hear everything that was going on around him, but he could not move.
And I can't control the way what happens or what goes on, and sometimes I have visions and I hear things. It's the scariest thing ever.
This felt like a very heavy, evil force which controlled me.
This little girl was thrown around the house like a little rag doll.
It started progressing worse with Michael. The house started getting really dark. Every night there was screaming, and his head just started flashing back and forth as something was just slapping him.
I thought he tripped. Oh. And I said something about him tripping, and he told me, no, something just pushed me.
Head move.
I saw his head move, yes, and go up against the wall.
He threw his head back and his arms went out, and he started jerking a little bit, and he raised his head up, and whenever he raised his head up, his eyes were pure white, and he started shaking his head around. I was scared.
Lurancy was attacked with a most violent pain, which caused her to double herself back until her head and feet actually touched.
This went on for quite some time, for months, and the spells and the seizures grew worse and worse over time.
People around her feared that she would die.
She said, I need to help you now. If you don't want to have help, you're going to die.
When she would awaken, she would have no memory of any of these events, but of course, to people who saw this from the outside, they assumed that she was mentally ill.
So did you actually meet Ramsey?
Yes.
And how old was she when you met her?
She used to come visit my grandmother in Kansas when I was about, I suppose, 7 or 8.
I guess it must have made you somewhat frightened to talk to her at first then.
It did at first. My brother and I kind of walked around her at first when, because we heard this story and we weren't real sure.
I think some of them thought she belongs in a mental institution. That girl's not right.
Until finally, in January of 1878, on the advice of their local minister and really at a loss of what else to do, her parents, Tom and Lorinda Venom, decided to commit their daughter to a state mental institution.
It seemed to be the general feeling among all the townspeople. Save the parents and commit the girl to an asylum.
had to put her in the hospital a couple times. It was more like a mental hospital or rehab is what they called it.
This was the family shame. You know, if someone had epilepsy or you know, various different disorders like that,
right.
You know, they thought they were just mentally crazy.
That's right.
And they'd either lock them in a closet, put chains on them, not let them out of the house, or bring them to places like this.
In 1929, a patient was observed swallowing various objects. She complained of stomach pains, so they took her into surgery. In that process, they found 1,446 things in her stomach. Tops of salt and pepper lids, nails, that type of thing. She died during surgery. They thought at the time perhaps it was an attention factor. She was maybe looking for attention. We now know it's a disease called pica.
Okay, I want to do this.
Rick was dead on. I mean, he knew nothing about the case. He knew nothing about the asylum we went to. I mean, he knew everything like he was just back there in that time.
At night, you go across to the other dormitory, which is considered to be Morgan 2. When the window's boarded up, you would see shadows basically stand in front of windows, and they would do this. Originally, I was sitting against the door right there listening. You saw something walk between the two rooms in this hallway. You then started to hear like a...
Like a rocking back and forth. Somebody humming.
Okay. Like somebody humming and rocking. When I got to the door frame right in front of us right here, you got the smell of a corpse.
Stop. Okay, hold up. Come here. Hold up. Hold up. I mean, stop. Look at that. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Like they're looking in at us. Something black and cold is looking in at us.
Yeah. And those windows are boarded up completely.
Right. You can't
all the
see
way.
It looks, I mean, you see something black and move, you know, from looking out, from the outside in.
Yeah.
Like staring at us, watching us.
Can I say something to you? So I'm speaking so they can hear me as too, okay? I want them to hear what I share with you so they understand, okay? Okay, as I'm walking away, do you know if there was any lobotomies here?
Okay, guys, whatever this thing is, it is following you. So I'm gonna come out here and see if we can capture it. Man, it is cold out here. 44 degrees. It's moving.
As I'm walking, someone just told me, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy." The one that's having me sway is, I almost feel like it has a mental capacity of a small child. Someone just told me, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy." Again, I hear the word mommy, mommy, mommy.
After reviewing what we captured on the thermal, it looks like a small child.